Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday, April the 17th, and welcome to our video commentary. I thought it was very interesting. In the last 48 hours, there was a press release by Mr. Mueller's office. Mr. Mueller, of course, is the man who is investigating, the allegations of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia in 2016. And to paraphrase the press release, it basically said, be very careful with news stories because most of them are inaccurate. They're basically saying these reporters really don't know what we are looking into or investigating. And I thought it was interesting, the timing of it, because so much of what we know about this investigation, or we think we know, is all based on these stories that we've been reading for the last year or so. A story that goes like this: a source familiar with the investigation, or someone familiar with someone who's familiar with somebody else close to the investigation. And this kind of reporting is what we've been getting about the investigation. I'm sure all of you remember that big headline a couple of months ago about how Mr. Mueller was investigating a bank in Germany who was doing business with the Trump family. Well, that turned out to be a false. I mean, that never actually was going on. It was eventually seen to be nothing but a lot of hot air. I'm sure all of you remember Brian Ross of ABC News, who thought he had the source and he had the magic bullet, and it turned out that he didn't. And he actually lost his job as a political investigative reporter. I don't know what he's doing now, but whatever he's doing now, I'm sure is not as interesting as the job that he had before. And other reporters at other newspapers and even some networks have had the same problem. The point is that nobody really knows what Mr. Mueller is doing. Now, we can speculate, we can say this and this and that, but it's all pure speculation. And I thought that the press release by Mr. Mueller's office coming at the same time, I don't know if this was a coincidence or something done on purpose, but coming at the same time of another story that was broken a couple of days ago by another media source saying that Mr. Trump's attorney, Mr. Cohen, had taken a trip to Europe in 2016 related to that dossier that is so controversial, the FISA document or dossier that was used to get a FISA warrant and all of that. All of this is happening, and it may be a coincidence that they released that statement the same day or a couple of days after that story. It may not be. I don't know. But I think for all of us citizens who are trying to understand what's going on, it may be a good idea for us not to believe these stories and simply, take a very skeptical look at stories that go like this, big fancy headline, and then when you read, well, this story came to us from a source familiar with the investigation. Well, I don't know what that is. I mean, I'm familiar with the investigation. I could be a source familiar with the investigation, and that doesn't mean anything. I don't know anything about what's going on inside Mueller's office, but I'm familiar with the investigation, if that's the definition of a source. So I think we all need to sit back a little bit and wait for Mr. Mueller's report. My gut feeling is that he doesn't have anything on collusion, but that's just my gut feeling. I think we would know something by now. I think something would have come out by now if in fact it existed, but I'm willing to give Mr. Mueller an opportunity to write his report. I think that's only fair that we do that. But all of this speculation about what he's doing or not doing, what he's investigating or not investigating, I think is nothing but speculation. That's all that it is. And I think the media needs to be a little bit more responsible in how they're covering this. I understand they all want to be the first ones to report something. I get that. But there needs to be a little responsibility, certainly a little responsibility for the truth and for the consequences of putting out all these stories. I mean, you put out these stories, there are consequences. Like the story that when Brian Ross put out his story on ABC News, there was a huge drop in the stock market until the story was corrected later. Well, sometimes bad reporting has consequences, as we saw that day. Well, thank you for watching. We have all of these over at YouTube. We have them on Twitter, and we have them on my blog. Have a great day, everybody.